My wife said she was going on a 3-day business trip, but I stumbled upon her arm in arm with her ex-boyfriend at a 5-star resort. The characteristic dry heat of an Arizona May hit my face as I stepped out of my familiar Ford F-150. The parking lot of the Phoenician, a 5-star resort in Scottsdale I had only heard of but never set foot in, stretched out glittering under the bright sun. Today wasn't a business trip or a vacation for me. I was here for a much more special reason: my parents' 45th wedding anniversary. They had treated themselves to a weekend getaway at this luxurious place, and I wanted to surprise them. In my hand was a carefully chilled bottle of Dom Pérignon and a huge bouquet of deep red roses. I pushed open the heavy glass door and stepped into the main lobby. Luxury immediately enveloped me. Gleaming marble floors reflected the light from enormous crystal chandeliers. The soft sound of piano music echoed from somewhere, and the delicate scent of fresh flowers and expensive perfume filled the air. I scanned the area, searching for my parents' dear faces among the crowd of elegantly dressed guests. And then, my heart seemed to stop beating. Not far away, right near the gleaming mahogany reception desk, I saw her. Claire, my wife. Her golden blonde hair was casually tied back, and she was wearing an emerald green maxi dress, the kind of expensive resort wear I'd never seen her in before. She was smiling, that radiant smile I loved, but it wasn't for me. Her arm was linked tightly with another man's arm. And that man, I recognized him immediately, despite not having seen him in person for many years, was Julian Vance. Claire's college boyfriend, the one she always adamantly claimed was ancient history, completely out of touch. They stood there, their luggage, a Louis Vuitton suitcase and a luxurious leather travel bag, placed neatly beside them. Julian, looking as dashing as rumored, was handing a credit card to the receptionist, while Claire stood close beside him, leaning her head intimately against his shoulder. They looked exactly like a couple eagerly starting a romantic getaway, not at all like two old friends who had accidentally bumped into each other. A cold chill ran down my spine. My brain struggled to process what was happening before my eyes. Claire, Julian, the Phoenician, Scottsdale, Arizona. But it couldn't be. Just last Wednesday evening, Claire had come home looking stressed, announcing she had to fly urgently to Dallas for the weekend. "The company has a sudden client seminar, Rob," she had said, her voice full of reluctance. "I have to go from Friday to Sunday to close a big deal. I really don't want to go at all." I remembered encouraging her, telling her she would do great and wishing her a successful trip. Dallas, seminar, work. It was all lies. This wasn't Dallas. This was Scottsdale, 1,000 miles from Dallas. And this definitely wasn't work. The way Claire leaned against Julian, the way they looked at each other, the intimate atmosphere surrounding them, it all screamed a harsh truth. Rage and an overwhelming sense of betrayal surged in my chest. I wanted to roar, to rush over there, pull Claire away from Julian, confront them right then and there. But something, perhaps the professional instinct of a construction project manager, someone who always has to keep a cool head during unexpected incidents, who must assess the situation before acting, held me back. I couldn't make a scene here. My parents could appear at any moment. I needed to control this situation. I needed proof. I needed a plan. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart. I stepped back, then another step, hiding behind a large marble pillar near the entrance. I watched them for a few more seconds. They received their room key, chatted happily, then walked towards the elevator together, arm in arm. There was no doubt left. I quietly turned, walked quickly out of the main lobby, back into the sweltering heat of the parking lot. The champagne bottle in my hand suddenly felt cold and strangely heavy. The bouquet of deep red roses now seemed like a bitter mockery. My name is Robert Miller, but everyone calls me Rob. 42 years old, living and working in Denver, Colorado. My job is managing large construction projects. From foundation to finishing, I ensure everything proceeds according to plan, on budget, and is as solid as reinforced concrete. I believe in clarity, in numbers, in logic, and thorough preparation. I had spent the last 10 years building a marriage with Claire, a life I believed was also built on those solid foundations: trust, respect, and commitment. But today, at a 5-star resort in Arizona, where I came to celebrate my parents' enduring love, I discovered that the foundation of my own marriage had rotted from within. My wife, who lied to me about a business trip to Dallas, was instead starting a 3-day romantic getaway with her ex-boyfriend. And I had a feeling this wasn't just about emotional betrayal. Sitting in my F-150 in the scorching hot parking lot, my mind raced, trying to piece everything together, searching for the clues I had foolishly missed. 10 years of marriage. We lived in a beautiful house in Denver's Cherry Creek suburb, a symbol of the successful middle-class life we had built together. I was a project manager for a major construction company, a job demanding long hours, frequent site visits, facing deadline pressures and complex problems. Claire was a marketing director for a rising tech company. Her job was also dynamic, requiring creativity, good communication skills, and occasional business travel. Outwardly, we were the perfect couple. Successful, active, with a wide circle of friends. We still traveled together often, real trips to Europe, the Caribbean. We attended charity events, company dinners. People often complimented us on being a compatible, happy couple. But perhaps that was just a facade. Over the past 6 months or so, I began to sense a vague distance. Claire started coming home later, always citing extended meetings or urgent deadlines. She became more secretive with her phone and laptop, things she used to be quite comfortable sharing with me. She was also more irritable, often complaining of fatigue and needing personal space. I tried talking to her, asking if something was wrong, but she always brushed it off, saying it was just intense work pressure. I, caught up in my own projects, accepted her explanation. I told myself this was a common rough patch for busy couples, that we needed to be understanding. I even suggested arranging a vacation just for the two of us to reconnect, but Claire declined, saying she couldn't take time off right now. Thinking back now, the explanation for the business trip to Dallas that Wednesday night was suspicious. She came home late, looking slightly flustered but trying to act normal. "The boss just called Rob," she'd said, while hastily packing a few outfits into a suitcase. "There's an extremely important client seminar in Dallas this weekend that I absolutely have to attend. Have to fly out Friday morning, back Sunday night. It's so sudden." She sighed, feigning exhaustion and reluctance. I even consoled her, saying that's how work is, and she should try to make the most of the opportunity. I didn't suspect a thing, didn't notice that the clothes she packed didn't quite look like business attire. And Julian Vance, the ghost from the past. Claire and Julian were the golden couple in college, according to mutual friends. They were intensely in love, but after graduation, their paths diverged. Julian pursued a career in venture capital in California, known for being smart, daring, and somewhat of a playboy. Claire stayed in Denver, working in marketing. She always told me they parted amicably, that Julian wasn't the right man to build a family with, and that I was her true love, her peaceful harbor. Whenever Julian's name came up, she always acted indifferent, insisting they had no contact anymore. I believed her, though sometimes a vague sense of unease would creep in. Julian represented a different world, a freedom and adventure that my stable, somewhat predictable life perhaps didn't offer. But I always pushed those thoughts away, thinking I was being needlessly jealous, lacking confidence. Claire had chosen me, after all. Now, the image of Claire leaning her head on Julian's shoulder in that luxurious resort lobby kept replaying in my mind. This betrayal wasn't just emotional. It involved money. I knew very well the cost of rooms and services at the Phoenician. A 3-day, 2-night stay here, including dining, spa, golf, could easily cost $3,000 to $5,000, maybe even more. Claire's salary as a marketing director was good, but certainly not enough for her to afford such a lavish trip with her lover without my knowledge. So where did the money come from? Did Julian pay? Or worse, did Claire use our money? We had a joint bank account for household bills and living expenses. We had a joint savings account for bigger plans. Could she have secretly withdrawn money from there? The thought made me shudder. If so, this wasn't just infidelity. It was blatant financial abuse. The effort I put into working tirelessly, managing multi-million-dollar projects, facing so many risks and pressures, was all to build a better future for both of us. Now, the fruits of that labor might be used by my wife to support her ex-lover on a luxury vacation. The feeling of being deceived, of being used, nearly suffocated me. The pieces started fitting together in my head, forming an ugly picture of systematic deception. Claire's sudden business trip to San Francisco 3 months ago. Wasn't that where Julian lived? The whispered, furtive phone calls she always explained away as confidential company matters? Her sudden increase in shopping for designer clothes and expensive handbags in recent months, claiming it was a reward for hitting KPIs? Even the way she occasionally inquired about my work travel schedule, seemingly to ensure I wouldn't be home at certain times? The coldness in the bedroom that I naively blamed on work stress? I had been too blind, too trusting, too focused on building the structure of our marriage without realizing its foundation had long been eaten away by termites. The initial anger subsided, replaced by a cold determination. I couldn't sit here wallowing in pain. I needed to act, methodically, like how I handle a project facing a serious setback. Step 1. Assess the situation and gather data. Step 2. Analyze and plan. Step 3. Execute. I restarted the F-150, blasting the air conditioning to dispel the heat and the tightness in my chest. I couldn't see my parents now, couldn't pretend to be happy when my mind was in turmoil. I pulled out my phone, called my mom, trying to keep my voice as calm as possible. Mom, I'm sorry. Something unexpected came up at a nearby job site. I'll probably be a bit late, maybe tomorrow morning. You and Dad enjoy your anniversary. Don't wait for me. My mom sounded slightly disappointed, but didn't suspect anything. Then, I drove about 20 miles towards Mesa, a less glamorous city than Scottsdale, and found a roadside Holiday Inn Express. I needed a neutral place, a temporary command center to focus my thoughts and actions without distraction. In the clean but impersonal hotel room, I booted up my company Dell laptop. The first thing was logging into our online bank account at Wells Fargo. My heart pounded faster as I accessed the joint checking account. I scanned the transaction history for the past week, and there it was, clear as day. A direct debit from the account, $2,874.50, the Phoenician Resort, Scottsdale, Arizona. Transaction date, yesterday, Thursday. Paid with the joint debit card, the one we both had, not a company credit card, not Claire's personal credit card. It was our money, joint money. Next, I checked the joint American Express credit card account. The recent transaction history showed $185.60, elements at Sanctuary Camelback Mountain, another luxury restaurant in Scottsdale, charged last night. $420, Neiman Marcus Fashion Store, Scottsdale, also yesterday. The evidence was piling up. Claire hadn't just lied about the location and purpose of the trip. She had brazenly used our joint funds to pay for this entire affair. I dug deeper. I logged into the Verizon Wireless online account to check the bill and call details for Claire's phone number. As I suspected, the call and text logs for the past 3 months showed numerous contacts with a California number I was fairly certain belonged to Julian Vance. The frequency of contact had spiked dramatically in the last 2 weeks, right before this business trip. While carefully reviewing the joint bank account statements from the last 6 months, another anomaly caught my eye. There were small transfers, around $300 to $300 to $300 to $500, made regularly on the 15th of each month, from our joint account to another Wells Fargo account. This had been going on for almost a year. I had never noticed these small transactions amidst the myriad of other expenses. I clicked to view the details of the receiving account. My heart sank again. It was a personal savings account, and the account holder's name was Claire Elizabeth Miller, an account whose existence I was completely unaware of. She wasn't just spending joint money on this trip. She had been systematically, secretly siphoning off our joint assets for an entire year. I did a quick mental calculation. The amount in that secret account must be close to $10,000. This betrayal was even worse than I thought. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was a calculated, prolonged plan to deceive and defraud me. I took another deep breath, trying to control the boiling anger. Now was not the time for emotions to take over. I needed to gather all this evidence systematically. I took screenshots of all the bank transactions, credit card bills, flight details, call logs. I saved them to a separate folder on my computer, password protected it carefully, and sent a copy to my personal email. Data secured. Next step in the plan: seek legal support. Still in Arizona, but I knew I needed a good lawyer in Denver, where we resided and where the divorce would take place. I spent Saturday evening in the hotel room searching online and making consultation calls. Many law firms have weekend hotlines. After a few conversations, I decided on Mr. David Peterson, a reputable family law attorney in Denver, known especially for complex financial disputes and divorces. I briefly explained the situation over the phone, outlining the evidence I had gathered. Mr. Peterson listened intently, asking sharp questions about the length of the marriage, joint assets, and details of the suspicious transactions. His voice was very professional and reassuring. "Mr. Miller," he said, "what you've described constitutes very strong evidence of dissipation of marital assets, alongside the infidelity element. The important thing now is for you to remain calm. Do not confront your wife until she returns to Denver. Try to gather original financial documents at home if possible. When she gets back, avoid a major argument. Let me handle the necessary legal procedures as soon as you're ready." I felt slightly relieved having a clear plan of action and professional support. I booked a flight back to Denver for Sunday evening, timing it to arrive a few hours before Claire. Throughout the flight, I managed to maintain a normal demeanor, replying to her texts saying the seminar went great and she was on her way to the Dallas airport. Her audacity was astounding. Arriving home in Cherry Creek, the house that was once our sanctuary now felt cold, alien. I went into my home office, turned on the printer. Sheet after sheet of evidence printed out, bank statements with the charge from the Phoenician resort circled in red, the confirmation for the flight to Phoenix, details of the credit card transactions in Scottsdale, the list of transfers to Claire's secret savings account. I stacked the papers neatly on the glass coffee table in the living room, a cold preparation for the impending confrontation. Around 10 p.m., Claire arrived home. She dragged the Louis Vuitton suitcase through the door, her face feigning exhaustion but with a hint of forced cheerfulness. "Oh, I'm back," she chirped, stepping forward to hug me. I took a step back. "Successful business trip?" I asked, my voice flat, emotionless. "Wonderful, honey," she said, not noticing the change in my demeanor. "Tiring but very productive. I think we're close to sealing the big deal." She even pulled a small keychain shaped like the Dallas Sheriff's star from her bag. "Bought you a souvenir." I looked at the keychain, then directly into her eyes. It was time. "How was the trip to the Phoenician, Claire?" I asked, my voice still eerily calm. "Was Scottsdale nice this weekend? Is Julian Vance doing well?" Claire's face changed instantly. The color drained from her cheeks, replaced by a ghastly pallor. Her eyes widened and she stammered, What are you talking about?" "The Phoenician? Julian?" I went to Dallas." I said nothing more, just silently pointed to the stack of papers on the glass table. Claire followed my gesture, then looked down at the statements, the flight confirmation, the account details. She, trembling, picked up one sheet, then another. The denial died on her lips. She sank onto the sofa, burying her face in her hands. And then she burst into racking sobs. The tears flowed, along with belated apologies. The familiar justifications I anticipated. She felt lonely. Our marriage had become boring. I was too focused on work. Julian just happened to get back in touch. He just listened and comforted her. Things only went too far on this trip. She looked up at me with tear-filled eyes, begging for forgiveness, pleading for another chance. I listened to it all, but my heart had grown cold. My calmness seemed even more terrifying than rage. When she stopped crying, I finally spoke, my voice still even but heavy with finality. It didn't just happen, Claire. You planned this trip 2 weeks ago. You lied to me. You used our money from our joint account to pay for it. And you've been secretly transferring our money into your private account for a whole year. This wasn't a momentary lapse. This was systematic deception. The trust is completely broken. I've contacted a lawyer. My last sentence was like a final blow, extinguishing any hope she had. Claire stared, stunned, then broke down again, but this time it was the sound of despair and fear. The charade was over. The very next morning, I met with lawyer Peterson in person. He reviewed all the evidence and quickly drafted the divorce petition. It was filed with the Denver District Court the same day, citing irreconcilable differences, but attached was a detailed affidavit outlining the infidelity and, crucially, Claire's deliberate dissipation of marital assets prior to the divorce filing. Simultaneously, Mr. Peterson filed a motion requesting a temporary restraining order, freezing half the funds in our joint accounts and the entirety of Claire's secret savings account to protect my financial interests. Claire hired her own lawyer, a sharp-looking woman. The asset division negotiations began, and they were quite tense. Claire's side tried to argue that the Scottsdale trip was merely a personal mistake, and the money in the secret account was funds she had saved herself from her salary, despite its clear origin from the joint account. They proposed splitting the remaining assets equally and requested I pay Claire alimony for a set period. Mr. Peterson flatly rejected their arguments. He used the bank statements as irrefutable proof, demonstrating the source of the secret account funds and the trip expenses originated from marital assets. He argued that Claire's actions constituted a severe breach of fiduciary duty between spouses, deliberately depleting joint assets for her personal benefit and that of her lover. He demanded the court deduct the entire amount Claire had dissipated, including the Scottsdale trip costs and the full balance of the secret account, from her share of the marital estate. He also vehemently opposed the alimony request, citing Claire's earning capacity and her misconduct. Faced with overwhelming evidence and the firm stance from me and lawyer Peterson, Claire and her attorney eventually realized that taking the case to a public trial would only further disadvantage and embarrass her. After a few more rounds of negotiation, they agreed to a final divorce settlement, which the court approved. The outcome was exactly as I had hoped, and Mr. Peterson had predicted. 1. Official divorce. Our 10-year marriage was terminated. 2. Asset deduction. The entire amount Claire spent on the Scottsdale trip, around $3,500 plus, and the full amount in her secret savings account, nearly $10,000, were identified as dissipated marital assets. This total of roughly $13,500 was fully deducted from the share of assets Claire was entitled to receive. Third division of remaining assets, the value of the marital home, after subtracting the mortgage debt, investments, and remaining funds in joint accounts were appraised and divided according to Colorado's equitable distribution laws. However, due to the large deduction above, Claire's share was significantly less than a standard 50-50 split. The agreement allowed me to keep the house by buying out Claire's remaining equity, a much reduced figure. 4. No alimony. Claire received no spousal support. Justice, at least financially, had been served. Claire lost a significant portion of the assets she would have otherwise been entitled to had it not been for her deceit and misappropriation. She had to find a new place to live, facing financial difficulties brought on by her lifestyle exceeding her means, and now the burden of the asset division. I didn't know, nor did I care, if her relationship with Julian continued. A relationship built on a foundation of secrecy and someone else's money rarely lasts. I completed the paperwork, transferred the remaining equity payment for the house to Claire. The day she moved her belongings out, I felt neither sadness nor satisfaction, just a strange sense of relief. I had all the locks changed. The house was truly mine now, a safe space where I could begin to rebuild. I told the whole story to my parents and a few closest friends. They were all shocked, but stood by me completely, offering unconditional support and empathy. That helped tremendously during this difficult period. The emotional wound caused by betrayal takes time to heal. But I didn't let it break me. I focused on my work, finding satisfaction in new construction projects, tangible, solid things I could control. I spent more time on myself, hiking in the majestic Colorado mountains, meeting friends, reading. I learned a painful lesson about trust, about the need to pay attention to warning signs, however small, in a relationship. I also realized the critical importance of absolute financial transparency in marriage. They say love is blind, but I paid a steep price to learn how to open my eyes wide. When I discovered the foundation of my marriage was destroyed by lies and greed, I didn't let myself get buried in the wreckage. I acted like a true project manager, gathered data, assessed the damage, planned a response, and executed it to reclaim fairness, protecting what was mine. Now I stand firmly on my own ground, built on a foundation of truth and self-respect. I am ready to rebuild my life, a new structure, stronger, wiser, and entirely under my own control. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my story. If you liked it, please hit like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next stories, because tomorrow I'll tell you other fascinating stories.